Okay. A lot of people have been asking about how I made my wire cages, because there's not a lot of YouTube videos on how to make all wire cages on a on one of these wire racks. So the reason I did it was it'll be easier to wash, power wash, or whatever every so often. I don't have wood. Wood's not going to degrade. The wood's not going to stink, you know, stuff like that. I was able to get a number of these wire racks for free from my cousin. She's moving out of state and just wanted to, you know, offload them to someone who was going to use them. So, I haven't built all of them into cages yet, because I only needed the two right away, the two cages, because there was too many of them to just shove in one, so I had to make two. So, I have another one I have to make down there. That's going to be a third breeder cage. And these big ones that are 4 foot wide, they're going to be all breeder cages. So I think I'll be able to have 6 to 7 full sets of breeders. And then I have 2 smaller wire racks that are like 3 foot wide by, I think, like 14 or 15. Those are going to be for the grow outs for butcher. At least that's the grand scheme and plan. And they should all fit inside my enclosure that I made. Let me go outside and show you the enclosure. So this is a dog kennel. My dad built this when I was 12, like 20 years ago. No, even longer than that. 25 years ago. And for the past 12 years, or 20 years, that's what it is, the past 20 years, it's just sat unused in his backyard. So, they're going to be moving in the next couple of years, and I was like, well, can I have it? And they're like, sure. So the other day we disassembled it, brought it over to here, and then we reassembled it. And it's, they're 6 foot panels, so it's about 12 foot by 6 foot, which I think is perfect. And I had a bigger tarp, I decided to go with the smaller tarp, so that they get more airflow. And so far it's working out. They get a nice little breeze in there. It's not too windy because they have the house for a break on both sides. But they do get a cross breeze, and that little window right there by my garbage can area is open, so they get a cross breeze right there, which is perfect. So that's the exterior cage. You can see my 2 lawn cages. Oh, I didn't show a video of those. Okay. When they were still in the house, I would put them in those cages out in the yard so that they could free range. So, well, not really free range, but cage range. So those worked out pretty good. The top one I got for free from my parents, and then the bottom one was here at this house that we're staying at now, so using that too. So this is the overall outside cage to help protect against dogs and coyotes. I know if they really want to get in, they can bite through it. As you can tell, we had a German Shorthair Pointer in this, and he bit through it. So I know with enough time, patience, and power, something can get in here. It's not going to prevent stuff. Well, it might prevent stuff like raccoons and stuff, but just a little bit more protection, so it's not just wire cages out here, these little ones. So, on to the construction of these guys. So, for the main body, it's a U shape. It goes front, top, back. That's 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch thicker wire. I got this from my cousin as well, who's moving. She's in her garage. I'm like, can I have that? And she's like, yep. She's like, sweet. So this is a heavier gauge wire. It's pretty thick and it's sturdy, so it's keeping everything up. For the bottom, I used 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch coated wire. It is more flimsy, as you can see, compared to this one, but that is what my Menards had. That was the only size that they had coated in store. So that's what I got, and it works. Bottom works. It's a little springy, but I think that's actually, you know, make them build a little bit of muscles because they don't know where their foot's gonna stop. So I cut these out all by hand with a little wire cutter because I'm poor, and those are the tools I had. So I cut out the big piece, and I had to measure this because this is 48 to the outside. So I know I can't go to there. So I made these 46 inches wide, tried to put it in, and it was still too tight. So I took off another inch, and because it's wire and it's got these things in it and it's not perfectly square and it's like hitting up here, like putting it to 45 was perfect. But see, I don't even know if it's exactly 45. What I did was 90 squares. So 90 half by half squares. And that fit in here perfectly. It's snug. It can't go back and forth. I'm rocking it. It has no movement, which is great. It's really secure. So I used these J-clips to clip it together. And the first one I did up here, the corners are a little funky because it was the first one I ever did, and I was like, well, it's going to be on the top and it's going to be fine. The second one I did a little bit better. Since I had the experience with it, I knew where to start my clippings and stuff. So I started with clipping, trying to think, now I can't remember. How did I start clipping this? I clipped the sides first, is what I did. So I found the middle point and I clipped that. I put less clips on the top because it's not holding as much weight, and I definitely put like every other clip on the bottom. One, because this green wire is flimsier, and two, I didn't want them to get their like feet caught in here if possible. So I just clipped it together, tried to make it and keep it as square as possible, which is kind of hard because the wire will want to like twist on you because it comes in a roll. For the bottoms and the sides, I tried to make it so that the flex of the wire gave me more strength. So I clipped against the flex so that it would give it strength and sturdybility. So these egg rollouts, they are still the bottom wire. So I got the 2-foot roll of wire because that's what they had for the bottom. And I did not need it 2 feet long. So I cut them 2 feet long, and then I ended up trimming them back again. But, so this is 20 inches, because my width here is like 18. So I left this longer so I could roll it up, and then I clipped on these little sides from the extra cutoff wire that I had. And then what I did here is I actually clipped this all one, and then I went back and I clipped the little cutouts for the egg rollouts, and then I left some supports so that the whole cage could support the bottom. And that's working out great. I made these doors from it's like a wire basket organizer. It's like super old. It was left here at the farmhouse. And we were told we could use anything that was left. So I was like, sweet. So I basically clipped that up here first with these 3 clips. And then I went around and I wire clipped around there. And then I J-clipped it to this. So when it moves as a door, it's one whole unit. And they can't try and get out of here. Because these are 1.5 inch squares, I believe. So they were pretty big. I know they can't get out of there, but it just gives a little extra protection. And when this is down, they think it's still open for me to use, but they think that it's fully closed and I can like do quick tasks and then come back and not have to worry about untying the cage every single time when I'm right here. And then these little supports I just put on here. I don't know if they were necessary, but I put them there around the door and in the extra space there just to give some extra strength. to the bottom, so it wasn't just these two clips that it was holding on. And that was also cut off from the little wire basket things, so probably unnecessary. And then to keep the egg tray up, I cut some more little spacers here, some 4 square spacers, because that's how long this is for the egg tray. So I put them here every so often just to keep the egg tray up and together, and so it wouldn't fall to gravity. And then all I did to connect it to the rack was use the wire that my coated wire came in, because if you get a brand new roll of wire, they have a piece of wire keeping it all together and tight and compact. So I kept that and I used it to tie these up. So I started with the back, of course, because I know that's going to be the highest point for these egg rollouts. And then these are definitely adjustable because they're just wired. So I'll just, when these go to full breeding cages, instead of having like roos in it, once I get all my automatic waters and feeders set up, I'll drop this a couple inches so that there's an angle so that the egg rollouts actually work. And then for the bottom here, I used to work at a sign shop and I had a bunch of these sign blanks. So they happen to be 18 inches wide. So they like just barely work as like poop trays. And it's not that bad. You just have to have a steady hand when you remove them so nothing falls. And I just cleaned them, so it is possible to do that. Because this is like the inside measurement is 46 or even 45 by 18, it's really hard to find some type of a pan that will fit this, even if it's oversized. So I was thinking about experimenting and getting one of those drip pans that a lot of people use for these cages and just cutting it off at one end. So then I could have 3 sides with an edge and then leave one side open. One, I could leave that side open by the waters in case there's spillage. The water can just run off and not get all of the poop wet. That's one reason. Second reason is it would be easier to scrape it if there's one side completely open. So I still haven't gotten that. That's on my agenda of things to try. I'll try it at least once to see if it'll work. And if it does, it'll probably be better than all the little ones. But these are also easy and not heavy to carry. But not everyone can get sign blanks. I just happen to have like a big stack of them. I worked at a sign shop for 4 years. Kind of missed that job because of all the materials that I was able to mess with, but it is what it is. Okay, so these cages, let me go over this again. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. I'm not used to doing videos yet. So the cages are about 12 inches high, so they're a full foot high, and then they're 18 inches wide, and then 45-ish inches long. So yeah, so basically I just, to make sure I cut this to the right size, I know it was 90 squares wide, and then by, I think 24 squares, and then 36 squares. I do it by the square count because if you try to do it just by full-on measuring, you'll be like in the middle of a square and stuff, and that doesn't do you anything. You want full squares. So even if I had to have this one square thinner to make it fit, that would work. And then I would just wire it to the sides if that was the case. If I don't have a nice length, like this is really tight in here and this isn't moving at all. Especially not with, just the Quail's movements. So you just have to think about that. Like I said earlier, I cut it to exactly like the 46, and then I had to trim off 2 squares to make it 45 inches or the 90 squares. Let's see what else. I think I tried to make these spaced out like 16 inches. Each of these increments is about 1 inch. So I made it too tight, and then, because you have to remember, when these are going to be moved to be used as an egg rollout, this is going to drop a couple inches. So it's going to be from up here down to like here, so that there's an incline for the eggs to roll out. So you don't want it too tight to the poop pan right now when they're flat, because then you won't be able to get the poop out. It'll be too tight. So that's to consider. So that's why these are like 16-ish inches. And I tried to all equally space them, so the bottom one will have the exact same spacing as these two. Yeah, I mean, since this is wire, this door pops a little bit open. It's got a space. I couldn't really get a good, like, clip to clip in there. I know I could cut some more wire and stuff, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. So I had these extra ribbon pieces laying around, and they work fine. They're not picking at them. They're not concerned with them at all. And it's a really secure connection to close the cages, because it gets really tight up against there. And they're secure in there. I'll talk about my feeders and waterers real quick. So again, I worked at a sign shop, so I had these little paint samples that I kept. I was going to do some project with these things, and it just never happened, but I'm glad I have them because they're perfect little pieces for this type of stuff. So I just have them on there because the wire's so bouncy. Their stuff was just bouncing everywhere, so that gives a little bit of a stable place, and then they can rest their feet on something that's not wire. I mean, this wire's soft, but it's still wire. And then that is the feeder, homemade feeder. I cut a hole in it, and then there's a piece of cardboard inside of there keeping the food back away. And the food falls, but it doesn't come out because of where I placed the cardboard. I made a video about that too. And that's just a fast food cup. The soft plastics are a lot easier to cut. So I started with drilling. I had like an 1/8 inch drill bit on my drill, and I just drilled holes, and then I used a razor to cut in between the holes, and then I, shaped it a little bit more after that. And then, a little chick waterer for now. I want to have the automatic water set up here. There's a little bit of space, so I need to get like a flatter Rubbermaid container. I have a pass-through kit that I got from Stromberg's. I'm going to use to wire up waterers on this side, and then I'm going to do feeders on this side. I do have my feeders. I just know that once I start that project, I have to finish it because there's going to be a hole in the cage. So I'm trying to make sure I have enough time to do that. But anyway, back to this right now, because this is where we're at. I have these sticks here just to keep the waterers and feeders from... It just gives a tiny bit of tension on them so that they just stay where they're at. I did originally just tie it with a string, but I just found when I needed to fill the water or the food, it was just annoying to have to try and feed the string back through the wire and stuff. It was very secure and that worked, but this is just a little quicker. And then down here I have 2 waterers for the ladies and the one rooster. They're attacking the rooster. Awesome. So they have their bigger feeder in the back there, and then their 2 waters, because there are definitely more of them. There's 5 in this cage. So I think with square footage math, this is like 46 or 45 by 18, because this is the full 18. I think it equals like 5.5 birds that will fit in here for 1 square foot of bird for battery type cages. So I have 5 in there, and I think I'm gonna not do 6 unless I absolutely have to and I have no room for 1. But right now this is gonna work out perfectly for 4 hens and 1 roux in this type of a cage. And like I said, I'm planning on having 6 to 7 of these. So 6 times 4 is 24 breeding hens. That's a lot of eggs. I don't even know if I can handle that many eggs right now. Once, they're all mature and going. I hope. We'll see. Yeah, that's basically the cage. Oh, and then I zip tied it to the dog kennel, the big dog kennel. Just because this is on wheels, I do have the wheels locked, but you never know. So I just have it zip tied on both sides to kind of keep it in place. But yeah, so far that is my cage. If you guys have more specific questions, let me know. I watched a number of different videos about making cages. Like, I believe it's Katernik's Corner. They had videos on just how to make all wire cages, and other individual people, I can't remember, on YouTube. They had lots of videos about how to make all wire cages, really cheap all wire cages, and that's where I got the idea for the cages were. And then I just thought, well, I can just wire it up because I'll have, you know, the shelves on these wires, they have a lip enough to be able to tie stuff securely to it. So that was my plan. And, you know, these guys don't weigh that much, so I'm finding it doesn't have to be as heavy duty as you think it has to be in your brain. We tend to overthink things and overbuild things as humans because we're, you know, 100 to 300 pounds. We need stuff sturdy. These guys are like 10 ounces each at full maturity. So, yeah. Just trying to think if there's any other things. You can get J-clips and J-clip pliers. You definitely need the pliers. Get those off of Amazon, or different feed stores may have them. I think Farm and Fleet, if you have one of those nearby, I believe they have those. I just got a 1 pound package of clips, and I have a ton left over. I can probably build like probably at least 4 of these cages with all the clips that I used. I could probably make 2 more full cages with it, if not more than that. But I don't think I used half the clips. So yeah, that is my cage build so far. Again, any questions or comments, please leave me a message and comments, and I'll try to answer your questions. I am new to this. I have never done this before. This is all 100% newbie build going on right here. I just watched a lot of different videos and put information together and figured out what I could do and see if it works, and thankfully it seems to be working. I might do some other videos with different types of builds. Like I had an idea of building like an old crib into a big brooder box, because you go on to Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, there's people posting free cribs all the time. So if you're going to use it for something like this, it'd be real easy just to staple some wire and stuff like that, and there you go. So you can really make almost anything into a quail cage, as long as they have enough square footage and room for food and water. But I digress. This video has gotten way longer than I thought it was going to, but kind of just is what it is. Well, thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. I hope this will help someone on their journey to self-sustainability. And raising these adorable, ridiculous little creatures. They have brought me so much joy. It's unfathomable, actually. But that's a different video. Okay, bye for nows.